Yuki wakes up in her cell. Suddenly, alarms begin going off and her cell's lights are turning red. 3 men in dark jackets with hoods barged into her cells. One of them motions for Yuki to stand up. One of the men in the black jackets suddenly strikes the other 2. He pulls back his hood to reveal a man with brown hair and chocolate brown eyes. He grabs Yuki, and they make a run for it. They come upon a gang of black-coated guys. Takuya bursts a window with a fire extinguisher. When Yuki awakens, Takuya is riding the motorbike on a highway, and her hands are still bound around his waist. The agency is pursuing them, and a Tamashi with a purple aura is attacking them. Yuki feels scared, and a crimson glow surrounds her. Tamashi, the purple aura, is defeated by her. Then a car with the name Horned Owl Transport shows up. The back doors are thrown open to reveal a man named Iji and a woman named Kikaiwu. Yuki is told by Iji and the lady that she received a message from her father saying, "Yuki, I'm waiting at Lost." After that, Yuki and Takuya meet with Geek, one of Takuya's acquaintances. Takuya tells Geek about Yuki's history while he fixes his motorcycle. After discovering Yuki's past, Geek attempts to talk Takuya out of finishing the job, but Takuya is determined to do so. The 2 are unaware that Yuki is listening in on their talk and has fled. Yuki remembers Salma, her father, and Akira as she wanders the city alone herself. Soon after, a fortune teller calls Yuki out and foretells a dire future for her. In another instance, Iji notifies Takuya to be cautious since the agency is broadening its search within the vicinity he is now in. Takuya then tells them that Yuki has vanished and asks Geek to look for her. Yumiko, one of his friends, also provides him with instructions to Lost. She accepts to transmit the details to him while a man in shadows is nearby. Returning to Yuki, she carries on with her alone exploration of the town, remembering the fortune teller's advice to go back to her original location. She has nowhere to go back to though, so Takuya follows her as she drives. With the intention of seeing her father, he persuades her to accompany him to Lost. They are being chased by the previous Tamashi and an agency chopper while they are traveling. When the Tamashi damages the helicopter during this procedure, Yuki becomes upset and calls upon Akira, who then utilizes his abilities to kill the Tamashi. Believing that they're out of danger, a cloaked individual ambushes them. The individual was Salma, who ordered his men to retrieve Yuki and kill Takuya. Meanwhile, Iji and Kikaiwu debated whether sending Yuki to Lost was a good idea. Switching over to Takuya, Yumiko and 2 men are circled around the bloody man, and Yumiko does the honors of finishing him off. Yuki and Takuya are saved by Yumiko and Kauta. When they try to leave the district through a tunnel, the agency men led by Suzuna intercepts them. Takuya, Yuki, and Kauta run into a different hallway. Yumiko uses her gun and shots the doorknob to buy the others time. She gets shot in the arm by Suzuna and starts fighting with her. Later, Kauta gets stabbed in the back by a Tamashi with a green aura. Kauta tells Yuki and Takuya to run. Geek picks up Yuki and Takuya at the end of the tunnel in a pickup truck. The 3 try to run from the Tamashi. Then, Takuya gets his motorcycle from the back and jumps out with the intention of buying Yuki time. Yuki grabs around Takuya's just in time, and she rides with him. She says that she did it because she wanted to. She also knew that Akira would come and save them. He does come and defeats the other Tamashi. Back in the tunnels, Suzuna states, "It seems she's awakened at last." Yua of SDR5, an idol group, finds out that the group is breaking up. Takuya calls Yumiko when they are traveling down the highway in the back of Geek's pickup truck, but their conversation ends abruptly. When Yuki wakes up from her nightmare, the gang realizes they're actually traveling back in time rather than just in circles. The gang saw Yua being accosted by her idols at that very time on the breakup of their group. As a fan of the group, Geek tries to help, but Takuya stops him because of how serious their predicament is. Yumiko discovers Kauta's missing, evident by a pool of blood and one of his shoes, but he remains elusive. Upset by this revelation, she attempts to reach Takuya without success. Meanwhile, Takuya and the group make efforts to break free from the time loop, but face failure. When Yua separates from the others, Geek follows her and eventually finds her sitting on a bench near a boatyard. Geek tries to engage in a conversation with Yua, who walks away once her true identity is revealed. It is mentioned that Yua's scheduled concert was cancelled under the pretext of her being sick, causing controversy among her fans who remained skeptical, Geek deduces that they've somehow entered a time rift and resolves to assist Yua. On the other hand, Takuya decides with Yuki that they should attempt to escape the time rift. Meanwhile, the members of SDR-5, distressed about Yua's absence, contemplate their next steps as the concert doors open and fans anticipate a performance. They receive information from someone named Atsuko that their manager, Seiji, informed her to relay the message that the show would be cancelled due to Yua's illness. Yua, seated near the boatyard, encounters Geek, who urges her to cancel an event scheduled 3 months ahead, aiming to create a paradox and prevent her idol group from becoming entangled in the lost incident. In a different location, Takuya and Yuki, riding on his motorcycle, discuss the time rift caused by Tamashi. However, they realize they are unable to break free from the time loop, continuously returning to their starting point. Back to Geek and Yua, they engage in a conversation, leading Yua to reveal that her producer orchestrated the group's disappearance. Geek reunites with Takuya and Yumiko to share this revelation, linking it to the lost incident. Armed with this knowledge, Takuya seeks out the producer Seiji, while Yuki, guided by Geek, confronts Yua and escorts her to the concert venue. During this, Yuki encourages Yua to believe in herself, instilling the confidence needed for Yua to perform at the concert. Finally returning to their own time, they learn that they weren't able to change the past. This leaves Geek depressed and wishes to be left alone, so Takuya and Yuki go on ahead, and Yuki laments over the losses due to the lost incident. Eventually, they're confronted by Salma, who knocks the two off the motorbike. After a brief talk between Yuki and Salma, the confronter tries to kill Takuya by twisting his arm with his tamashi. In retaliation, Yuki creates a massive supernova, with her powers creating a massive crater in its wake. News of the supernova Yuki created goes viral. Geek is seen by Takuya and Yuki's sides as they go in for surgery for the injuries that they sustained. Now with IG and Kikayo, Geek demands answers, and the worried Yumiko suggests that he go into hiding. IG suggests his place would be perfect, as he'd avoid police contact for infiltrating the lockdown district. Later, Yuki is brought to IG's home with Kikayo, and they're questioned by 2 police officers by the names of Ryoko and Shunpei. Soon, Geek and Yuki are driven to IG's home, which is noted to be rather large. Yuki, who, in her room, has a mental breakdown about her confrontation with Sama. Meanwhile, as Yumiko looks over the unconscious Takuya, she's confronted by Suzuna. Meanwhile, rising star magician Yoshiaki is met by a private detective named Keigo. He questions Yoshiaki about his time at the Light of Hope Academy for Disabled Children and how to help him find his missing brother. When he asks Yoshiaki for money to fund his search for his brother, Ryoko intervenes, and the two later talk in his office. She asks for him to find information in regards to Takuya. Elsewhere, Yuki talks with Detective Ryoko about the lost incident, her Yuki's father, and her own father, who was involved in the lost incident. Afterward, Ryoko and Shunpei visit the Lacuna chemical factory and meet its public relations person Tsuki. They interview her about the break-in that occurred the day before and ask her to look inside. However, they cannot, as they don't have a warrant to do so. When they're gone, Tsuki talks with her superior Tayu concerning Yuki and Sama. It's noted that Yuki can harness her abilities without an artifact, unlike Sama. That night in Police HQ, both Ryoko and Shunpei were reprimanded for investigating things related to the lost incident. Although ordered to stop, Ryoko is adamant about continuing. Geek and Yuki go and visit Takuya in the hospital, only for them to take him back to IG's house with them. Meanwhile, Keigo finds information about Takuya. In the restricted area, bombshell information is found in regards to the lost incident. She's then betrayed by her partner Shunpei as he's part of the agency. Shunpei stabs her and leaves her dead. Back at IG's house, Yumiko talks with Yuki about Sama. The discovery of the legendary treasure, Suki's Tears, gains widespread attention after it is recovered from the sunken ship that carried it. Yuji shares with his former superior Keigo the news of Shunpei's death and the closure of the investigation division. Seeking more information about the agency, Yoshiaki unexpectedly enters the detective's office. At IG's residence, Yuki recognizes Tsuki's Tears as an artifact previously possessed by Sama. IG provides some background on the artifact's history. Yumiko alerts the group about a trespasser Yoshiaki who seeks Takuya. Yoshiaki reveals his connection to a group of thieves known as the Phantom Thief Brigade, led by his brother Tsubasa. Yuki and Keigo await Yoshiaki outside Iji's compound. Inside, the group reviews stolen items, including the artifact used by Salma. Yoshiaki expresses his intention to target Tsuki's tears. Meanwhile, the Phantom Thief Brigade plans their next heist. Takuya's group suspects a connection between the Brigade and the agency, deeming an attempt to capture them as a trap. Initially hesitant, Takuya eventually agrees to assist Yoshiaki. Yuki raises questions about artifacts influencing personalities and decides to help Yoshiaki explore the capabilities of artifacts. As they head to a predetermined location, Yuji and Keigo discreetly follow, revealing Takuya's past association with the agency. Additionally, Yoshiaki possesses Tamashi abilities. Tsuki shares a plan with her superiors Taiyu, Suzuna, and Salma. The Phantom Thief Brigade ambushes Takuya's group, rendering them immobile. Despite Geek obtaining new information about the artifact, pursuit is hindered by the damaged van. In a shower scene, Tsuki recalls Tsubasa's failed attempt to kill Taiyu and her subsequent retaliation, leaving a scar on her back. She seemingly shoots Tsubasa, suggesting his demise. In the present, Yumiko provides Takuya with information about Tsubasa and his connection to Yoshiaki and the Light of Hope Academy. Later that night, a three-way confrontation ensues between the Phantom Thief Brigade, Takuya, Yuki, and Salma. Yuki calls upon Akira for assistance in the escalating conflict. The confrontation between Salma, Yuki, Takuya, and the two Phantom Thief Brigade members, Jack and Rui, continues. While Yuki and Salma went at each other with their respective Tamachi, Yoshiaki used his powers to heal the wounds of Jack and Rui. Amid the fight, the artifact Salma was using breaks from Akira's attack, so he then uses the Tsuki's tear that he stole against Yuki. The power of the artifact allows him to summon Tsubasa. A flashback is then shown involving Rui and Jack's past before they were members of the Phantom Thief Brigade. Back in the present, an ice-related attack from Tsubasa destroys Akira. Yoshiaki then confronts Salma and demands to know why his brother is under his control. However, Salma refuses to answer and has his brother Tsubasa attack him against his will. Tsubasa, however, intentionally misses with every attack of his ice-based move. Amid it, Sumair appears to have escaped from her predicament, which makes Salma drop the artifact. Yoshiaki picks it up and then uses his Tamashi to destroy it. Overwhelmed by the loss of the artifact, Salma is approached by his sister Yuki, who tries to persuade him to come with her. On the other hand, Salma refuses to, as he loathes being the one being viewed as the weaker half and wants to be the one to save her. Hearing that the two embrace each other. This incident leaves Tsuki vexed, as Suzuna didn't do anything to prevent it from happening. However, Suzuna believes that she wanted it to happen like that, which amuses Taiyu, who tacitly listens. Meanwhile, at Iji's household, Salma is shown to be unconscious. A flashback depicting Takuya and Geek involved in an incident at a cabaret bar. They receive assistance from a man who later becomes Takuya's superior in the police force. In the present, Takuya, Yoshiaki, Yuji, and Keigo embark on a journey to the Light of Hope Academy, delving into its connection with the Lacuna chemical factory during their discussion. At Iji's residence, Geek engages in conversation with Kikeu about the ditch he's digging. Kikeu reports abnormal gravitational waves, prompting Iji's attention. Yuki oversees Salma's comatose state and engages in a conversation with Yumiko, recalling her partnership with Takuya in a detective agency before the lost incident occurred. Meanwhile, Takuya, Yoshiaki, and Keigo arrive at the Light of Hope Academy, where a sudden high-pitched sound envelops them, pulling them into a time rift. Encountering familiar children and the caretaker Hanako, Takuya realizes he had worked as a double agent investigating child abuse allegations. Keigo seeks a way out of the time rift, and Takuya reveals that dispelling the regret surrounding the academy, particularly his own, is the key. As dusk falls, Kikeu discusses the symbolism of the Japanese anemone patients with Geek, hinting at Hanako's regret as the caretaker. The narrative unveils Hanako's remorseful feelings, influenced by Takuya's actions. The story then shifts to a significant event where the children are invited to a circus show, coinciding with the lost incident. Takuya, refusing to attend, submits his resignation to the academy, aligning with the timeline of the lost incident. Present Takuya intervenes, attempting to prevent Hanako from revealing the truth to the children. The time rift dissolves, and they return to the real world. Yumiko discloses that Takuya quit the agency after the lost incident. Discovering a finance log in the school's backyard birdhouse, the group finds deposits from the Lacuna Chemical Laboratory, raising further questions. Upon Takuya's return to Iji's home, he learns that the principal of the academy may be alive rather than dead. In a captivating live magical performance on television, Yoshiaki astounds the audience with his final trick, making an entire building disappear. The randomly selected building is the Lacuna Chemical Laboratory, chosen through a magical draw. At Iji's home, Kikayoru and Iji monitor the comatose Sauma, while a flashback reveals Takuya's plan to hunt the principal of the Light of Hope Academy. Despite Takuya's disapproval, Yuki is determined to assist in the mission. In the present, the disappearance performance unfolds with camera crews and news reporters surrounding the factory. Simultaneously, Takuya, Geek, and Yuki infiltrate the building using a fake ID card. Geek livestreams the infiltration, and Yoshiaki shares the story of losing his family, leading him and his older brother to the Light of Hope Academy. Suki expresses her disdain for the tactics employed to reveal company secrets, and Sauma's Tama she begins to reawaken. As Takuya's group confronts the principal of the Light of Hope Academy, they are attacked by cloaked figures, interrupting the live stream. However, the figures are defeated, and news about the Lacuna Chemical Laboratory spreads virally. The evidence from Yoshiaki and Geek's livestream leads to Tayu's arrest. The group returns to Iji's house as Sauma's condition becomes unstable. Sauma's Tama she overwhelms him, transforming into a grotesque monster. Moreover, the effects of his condition threaten to trigger another lost incident, even larger than the previous one. Yuki, determined to stop Sauma, is guided to his location by Takuya. Utilizing her Tama she, Yuki flies to Sauma's position and, with the assistance of Akira, breaks through his defenses. After an emotional embrace, Sauma explodes, leaving Yuki devastated. A presentation by Daichai Yuki and Sauma's father on the quantum physics theory of parallel universes is given. While in the cafeteria of Lacuna Chemical Laboratory, Daichai is approached by Detective Nagishi and his partner, a young Keigo. They question him about the remains of 3 men and women found in the vicinity that are somehow connected to him. What's more strange is how the autopsy analysis says he died 50 years ago, and one of the men has the same DNA records as him. To this end, Daichai questions the detective's motives for such an asinine statement. Nagishi apologizes and leaves for the time being, and Daichai is then called to the director's office, which could be about the conference from before. Tsuki goes on a date with the department manager and, in the process, poisons one of his drinks, allowing Teiyu to take his position. In time, Daichai's position is promoted to head of laboratories thanks to Teiyu, and Project Noah begins. The necessary materials are collected, and Daichai oversees the building of the portal gate that'll connect to the other world. Over time, Daichai bonds with a woman who works in the cafeteria named Mifuyu. Her father was a bus driver and put in many hours to pay for Miyafumi's medical bills. Due to the strenuous nature of his job, he was involved in an accident that killed himself and all of the passengers on board. This caused a massive stigma to befall Mifuyu, as she's the catalyst for the accident. The bonds between the two grow over time, and Teiyu tries to dissuade Daichai from pursuing them any further to avoid any distractions from his work. So, Daichai tries to break up with her. However, he cannot allow himself to do it. Time goes by, Yuki is born, and it's noted that her existence is a contradiction. Years go by, and the day of the lost incident occurs. It's shown that Taiyu's removal of safety constraints that were imposed on the portal machine is the true cause of the lost incident. Devastated by the loss of her brother Sauma, Yuki clings to his choker as the only tangible reminder of him. In the present, all charges related to the Lacuna Chemical Laboratory are dropped due to insufficient evidence. The revelation of Kauta's rescue unfolds as Yumiko and Takuya's former superior Kaibara played crucial roles in saving him. Meanwhile, Kikayoru informs Yuki about the expanding giant hole caused by the lost incident. Taiyu, from his perspective, shares with Tsuki and Suzuna that Daichai is preventing the further growth of the lost hole. Although Taiyu initially considered using either Yuki or Sauma as a replacement for the portal, he now deems eliminating Daichai as the optimal solution. His plan involves entering Lost himself. Yuki and Takuya are warned about the adverse effects of approaching the Lost area and are urged to stay away, as Taiyu, the president of Lacuna, might stop or harm them while attempting to communicate with someone there. Subsequently, Takuya spends time with Geek, discussing SDR-5, and later visits Yuki. Ig and Kikayo reveal their true intentions to Geek, Kauta, and Yumiko. Eventually, Yumiko and Yuki engage in a heartfelt conversation at a cafe, while Takuya reunites with his former superior, Kaibara. Both Takuya and Yuki express their determination to enter Lost, regardless of the potential consequences. Meanwhile, Taiyu, faced with continuous failures in human research experiments, persuades Tsuki to volunteer. Although Tsuki initially manages, the experiment takes a dark turn when Taiyu intensifies its output. On the beach, Yuki and Takuya share a heartfelt moment. En route on Takuya's motorbike to the Lost area, Yuki and Takuya spot Suzuna from the Lacuna Chemical Laboratory talking with some police officers. It's suspected that she and Taiyu plan on going to Lost as well. Elsewhere, Yumiko and Kauta are on reconnaissance, watching over a Lacuna antenna that'll be hacked by IG. A flashback reveals that the antenna will help maintain the sanity of Takuya and Yuki when they're in Lost. While infiltrating Lacuna, Kauta and Yumiko run into two cloaked guards who try to stop them, but Yuji and Keigo intervene, allowing them to progress. Back to Yuki and Takuya, who reach a roadblock. They get help from the Phantom Thief Brigade and Yoshiaki, who gives them some communication devices. Eventually, the two find Suzuna, who's near death after trying to betray Taiyu. Before she dies, Suzuna confesses her regrets for being a part of Yuki's torment. With the help of Kana, Geek is able to hack into the antenna, allowing Takuya and Yuki to be able to enter Lost. As the two enter the subspace-like area, Yuki has flashbacks involving Yua and Ryoko, making her believe that she's weak. However, Yumiko dissuades Yuki of that notion. On the other hand, Takuya suffers from his own past regrets, and communications between them and Igi's group are practically lost. Meanwhile, Taiyu makes it to the lowest point of Lost and confronts Daichai, whose personality is uploaded to a series of computers. Not wanting to waste any of his valuable time, Taiyu proceeds to delete his former partner in order to perfect the portal to Lost. Back to Yuki and Takuya, the memories of theirs that involve each other start to intertwine, which allows them to regain their focus. They then head deeper into Lost and arrive where Taiyu is as he tries to kill Daichai. Yuki then summons Akira to try to stop him. Yuki deploys the summoned Akira to attack Taiyu, but he proves impervious to the assault. Despite his resistance, Taiyu proceeds to kill Daichai. However, Daichai manages to evade him, prompting Taiyu to attempt using his power to erase him. In response, Daichai encases Taiyu in a box, disrupting their mutual communication support. Daichai then discloses Yuki's role as a bridge connecting multiple worlds, revealing an alternate universe to Yuki and Takuya. Despite the revelation, Yuki refuses to proceed, and Taiyu, now in a monstrous form, captures Daichai. Yuki's effort to free her father proves futile. Just as Taiyu is about to finish Daichai off, a bullet shard lodged in Taiyu's heart halts him. The shard originated from Suzuna's attempt to kill him, although he supposedly retaliated by ending her life. Contrary to appearances, Suzuna was alive for a brief period. Using one of the guns left behind by Akira, Yuki, with Takuya's assistance, eliminates Taiyu. They manage to escape Lost as the entire area begins to implode. On the surface, members of the Phantom Thief Brigade, Yoshiaki and Geek discover Yuki unconscious, but Takuya is conspicuously absent. Time passes, and Yoshiaki performs a magic trick for a small audience in a local park. Yuji and Keigo become partners, while Ig, Kikayo and Geek establish their own company related to Lost. Yuki resumes full-time schooling and Kauta and Yumiko work with Takuya's former superior Kaibara. Finally, Takuya is revealed to be alive and is on the verge of reconnecting with Yuki. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.